Welcome everyone to Beauty from the Ashes. Today I'd like to welcome a woman who has overcome incredible odds just to be free and with us today. Hope Beryl-Green, thank you for coming out today and sharing some of your story with us, Hope.
Well, thank you so much, Jenny, for having me. I'm just extremely excited to be able to share with people what God's brought me through.
Now, Hope was born into sex trafficking and satanic ritual abuse, which most people cannot even fathom this kind of reality. But now, these days, you are a professional speaker, sharing your story and educating organizations on how they can fight sex trafficking.
Correct.
Yeah, and there's some pretty big guns there that you're talking to. Organizations like End Slavery Tennessee, Last Call for Grace, and even Nashville, our very own BNA National Airport. Plus, local news reports and churches all over.
Absolutely. It's amazing what the Lord has brought me to. And I just want other people to know that there isn't anything that He can't bring you from and out of.
Amen. And it's exciting to hear that you are actually currently writing a book yourself about your story and your healing journey. Is that going to come out later this year?
I'm hoping with lots of prayer and hard work that it will be out by the end of this year. So that's what I'm planning on.
Well, we will look out for that. Absolutely. I already can't wait to read it. Can you explain to us, Hope, because there's no easy transition into that because it's not an easy life. So can you explain what childhood was like for you? Did you know your mother? How did that work?
Absolutely. I actually was born into sex trafficking. My mother passed away when I was born, and then it was actually a relative, a couple that took me in. And from the time I can remember my earliest memories, they had begun to sell me, and not only to, people locally, but also pretty much throughout the U.S. and overseas.
Wow.
Yes, it's really sad because a lot of times people feel like that sex trafficking, when you look at someone, you can tell, or it's people that are on the street, and that is definitely happening, but it is also very locally, and it could be as easily as next door. The people that were trafficking me were actually school teachers, and he was a coach. So it's sad to say, but the reality is that it's going on, and the more that people are aware and know of that, the more they can help people like me to get out and to get free.
Right. And so often we think of movies like Taken, where it's an organization and it's a bigger thing, and it feels like something that we would never be able to come into contact with in our daily life. But it actually does exist in neighborhoods, and there's sort of subcultures, if you will, for this that exists.
That's so true. In the Word it says that Satan comes as an angel of light. And it is very true. In my situation, they looked like a normal family. They would have looked like a middle-class family, someone that you would never guess that what was going on behind closed doors. But actually, that's how they got away with what they did. And on a daily basis, that is what was going on. They had connections within the school that I was going to, and they would tell me within there was a police officer that lived next door to us, and he was actually involved in the whole situation. So it's very hard in that kind of life, because you're really to say it clearly, it's more really programmed to think that this is the way that people live and this is what people endure. And so I really didn't know that there was any other way. I just thought that that's, kind of what I deserved, because that's what they would tell me. and that God had created me for that. So it was very confusing and hard to understand how a God that I would hear about would also put me in that situation and actually be the one that would want me to do that. So in a way, it was a double bind. It was kind of where I thought in my heart, like something's wrong. I was extremely depressed, very suicidal all my life, but also thinking that this is the only way that it ever can be. So it's
no
very
hope whatsoever in that place. I mean, which of course I would assume would breed that kind of suicidal thinking. With that, if you don't have hope.
Exactly. And that's why I tell when I do share with people when I go and speak and in trainings and things like that, is that to look at those things in whether it's a kid in school or if it's a person that you see at the airport or anything that looks off of. I mean, if a person is depressed all the time, or if they look like they're upset, or if they are suicidal, in the case of seeing someone every day when they're at school, and it just, something just doesn't make sense to really go with that gut feeling, because God might be trying to show you something that's going on. Not in every situation, but there is probably something that He's trying to let you know, whether it's to pray for that person and in my situation, it just, things were not right. They were horribly off. And, but nobody really asked any questions because they thought that things were, just normal
from the outside.
Exactly.
So, and now you said that you were sold out. Unfortunately, that's a terrible way to express it, but it is the truth of a situation. And how long would that be at a time? Because if you are looking as a normal family on the outside, what does that look like?
Well, normally, I mean, they could fly me out one day and then fly me back in the next day. It's very, on the weekends or breaks. It wasn't ever a vacation that we went on. There was always a purpose behind it and always a reason. And for example, if we would go out to eat, it would look like we were going there to go eat, but they actually were meeting someone there to sell me to purchase me. And a lot of times the way the traffickers work is they like to see their product, which is so sad because we're made in God's image, and so we have so much worth, but they really treat you like an animal, or actually worse than an animal, and they want to see their product and see if it's something that they want to purchase. So normally that's what happens, and then they would send me with them, and whether it was an hour, 2 hours, or whatever they paid for the next day or weekend, that's what would happen. So it was very, and on the top of all of that, they were very much involved in satanic rituals as well. They hated God, they hated everything about Him, and so they pretty much, distorted who He was to me. You want to think that God would be a safe place, but for me, it was even His name was just a very unsafe thing for me. But one thing that stood out to me, and really what I always remember, is that everything that I was told about who He was, that He hated me and that He wanted me dead, or that He wanted me to be sold, that He created me for that. In all of those situations, there just something was within me that thought, there's got to be something more than this, There would be times where they would just put me in a closet and leave me there for a couple of days just because I didn't act act the way they thought that I should act or do exactly what. It was very controlling to try to keep me from ever saying anything. Like I said, a lot of manipulation and control to keep me silent. But after one of those times, I'd say I was probably about 5 years old, and I came out and I saw the sunlight, and I looked down and I saw a yellow flower. And at that moment, it always brings tears to my eyes, because at that moment I knew that there had to be something more. There had to be something that was good, and there had to be a God that genuinely loved me, if that he could make something so beautiful. And so that kind of really stemmed to where God ended up changing my name, or gave me my name later on in life, because I changed my name to Hope. So
I love that. That's fantastic. And I love that image of your that memory that you have as such a young age, knowing that somewhere in your being, right, God is saying, hey, I'm here in a mess, and I need to give this to you, because I won't be able to always be there in the way that you'll understand me.
Exactly. And he knew that was a safe thing for me. Mm-hmm. Everything in my world was not safe. Even his name, really, a lot was not safe for me. So that he knew what to use to get to my heart. And I think that's why, in the Bible, he talks so much about his creation and how it cries out, because if nobody else cries out and nobody else tells us, he's always crying out, even through his creation. So
amen. I completely agree with that. And how did you finally escape that life?
Well, I'd hate to say that I would love to be able to say that, it was very early on, but unfortunately, I was in my adulthood years before I actually got free. I really struggled with that, because I had a lot of anger about why didn't you rescue me sooner than that? And he was very clear. He said, Hope, I sent, I asked thousands of people to help you, but this was the first person that actually said yes. And so right around in my early 20s, I had a Christian couple that really reached out to me. I mean, they showed me what genuine love is. I really, up until that point, had never been loved. I'd never been shown any love. Pretty much everybody around me was kind of manipulated. I could only be around the people that they told me I could be around. But in this situation, they just didn't give up. I mean, they just continually showed me God's love. I mean, they gave me a place to live. They gave me a car. They gave me prayer and love, and just really treated me like family. So it took quite a few years, but I finally really saw that there could be another life for me, and that I could get free. So I have to say, when people ask me how I got free, I have to say it's God's love, and really that is so true, because I've never experienced that before.
Mm-hmm. And what was that like, learning a whole new reality of freedom with the Lord?
I have to say it was really easy, but it was not at all. Yeah. Because it just took day by day by day. It was a lot of prayer, a lot of crying, a lot of anger, a lot of just processing the things that I've been through. It was kind of like turning a light on in the darkness, and it takes a while for your eyes to get adjusted, and there's a little bit of pain when that happens. And so, it was hard for them, because they had a lot of barriers that they really had to push through and they had to never give up. I think more than anything is that when I messed up, they still loved me, and they didn't go anywhere. Because in my lifetime, I mean, if I breathed the wrong way, I got beat, or if I looked the wrong way, I got told I was stupid and on and on and on. So to be loved for just me it did something deep in my spirit.
It's not easy for people to